Ms. O'Neill, who is our Assistant Principal for Academics, and Mr. Montaigne, our Director of Educational Technology. Let's give it up for those two. Huh? Come on, give it up. We'll be doing the presentation this morning, but as in all things, I just would invite us to prayer as we begin our time together today. So let us remember that we're in the holy presence of God. God, we give you thanks for this day. We ask you to bless each member of the class of 2016. Bless us all with the rest and relaxation of the Easter holiday coming up. And we are mindful of the Lenten journey as we enter into these next 3 days, the holiest days of the Catholic calendar, that remind us that all days are holy and that we are truly in your holy presence. St. John Baptiste de La Salle,
pray for us.
St. Elizabeth Ann Seton,
Pray for us.
St. Louis de Maria,
Pray for us.
St. Vincent de Paul,
Pray for us.
and live Jesus in our hearts.
Forever.
Is it Miss O'Neill?
Miss O'Neill?
Miss O'Neill.
Indeed.
Good morning. What we're going to talk to you about today is BYOD, the best ways for us to support you in using technology in education. So as we're going to be talking to you about ways to do so, we're also going to be talking to you about ways and times perhaps that one doesn't do so. So this is the time when you should put your cell phones away. You've had an opportunity to use them before, but now we've asked you here and asked you to pay attention. Mr. Cannon made reference to the coming 3 days. We're entering the Triduum, the three holiest days of the Catholic Church. But I wanted to talk for a minute about today, which is sometimes called what? Holy Thursday. Another name is Maundy Thursday. So raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. Mandatum has to do with doing things with your hand. And so a word that got taken from that, Maundy, to do things, commandment day, because it's the day that Christ told the disciples to go and do things as he did, to take and eat the bread. Today what we're going to be talking to you about with BYOD is the way we're asking you to do things, to make things, to construct your own learning. We're going to be talking to you about why we're asking you to bring your own device, because owning your device, owning the way in which you learn, lets you own the learning and lets you be in charge of constructing your own education. And that's the background to what we're doing. That's why we want you to have your own device. That's why we want to help you figure out the best ways to work with technology. It's often said that students know how to play well with games, with apps, with all those sorts of things. And that's probably true. Our job as teachers is to help you figure out how to learn well with technology. And Mr. Montaigne and the rest of the educational technology staff, as well as your teachers, are going to be embarking on this adventure in the next 4 years. And we're the expert learners here. We're not saying we know it all. We're saying we have to learn and try as well. So we're asking you to construct your own knowledge, and almost more importantly, asking you to help us as a community construct better learning for one another. And so with that, please give a round of applause to Mr. Matt Montaigne.
Thank you, Joan. So this won't take too long. It'll take roughly 25 minutes, just so you guys have a sense as to time. So we'll have you out here by 9. So this is a picture that I grabbed off the web. This is a digital language learning lab. It's not too different than the type of lab that I had, Miss O'Neill had, and your parents had when we were in school. It just wasn't digital. So it's by a company called Sanico, and it's probably about a $125,000 lab. I want you to think just for 10 seconds, what's the problem with this type of lab? Think for what's one of the problems? There are many different problems. There are some great things about it too, of course. What's the problem? Number 6 is not doing what they're doing. Okay, what else? And I mentioned one, the price, the cost, $125,000. What else? This is sort of a tough one, yeah. Can't move them anywhere. They're stuck there. Yeah, so on Saturday and Sunday or in the evenings or before school or when you're in another part of the campus, you can't use that lab. As a matter of fact, this lab, we had this lab at school that I worked at, and the students were lucky to use it twice a week for about 45 minutes. So I went into an AP Spanish class 2 weeks ago, and we took this language lab learning model and we used a couple free apps and some phones, and we sort of recreated this, but we freed it so it could be used anywhere, anytime. And I don't know if you know this, but the oral portion of the AP Spanish exam is an important one. And so we need to give students the opportunity to practice speaking as much as possible. So here's what it looked like. That was the lab, and students recorded into an app called the free MP3 recorder. And when they were done with it, they could then upload it to an assignment in Schoology for the teacher to listen to and then give the student feedback. So we took that $125,000 lab, we made it mobile, we made it a whole lot less expensive, and we made it accessible to students anytime, anywhere. So why are we doing this? Well, let's take a look at the classroom toolbox right now. So these are the different tools that you have access to learn, and the different tools that teachers have access to for teaching. I mean, there's more or less tools. And these are all really good tools, and we will continue to use these tools in the future. Blackboards or whiteboards, and a calculator in math class. So really all we're doing here is just making the toolbox bigger. So that's what we're doing by adding or requiring all students at SHC next August to bring in a digital device every single day. We're making the toolbox bigger, and I'll just show you some examples of how we're going to do that in a moment. So this stuff here at the bottom, so this is called Bloom's taxonomy of learning. And this stuff at the bottom is what I focused on when I was a student quite a bit. Mostly knowledge, going to school to get knowledge. I mean, my family paid $1,000 for an encyclopedia set, books, we paid $1,000 for that. Now you can get that on Wikipedia and other online sources for free, anytime, anywhere. So access to information was really limited back in the day. And now, information's everywhere. You guys are swimming in a river, fast-moving river of information, so that's there. So our job as a teacher, as Mr. Stanley says, is to help you find and evaluate and validate good quality information, to separate the good stuff from the bad stuff, and then to work at the top of Bloom's to develop what are known as the higher order thinking skills. So critical thinking, analysis, evaluation, and then right there at the top is create. So our goal is to create more opportunities for students to create stuff. A digital device is a great tool for doing that. Many of you this year and in years past, you've probably created digital media of a wide variety. You've probably posted stuff to blogs. You've probably taken images for class. You've probably created videos. And if not, most everybody in here has probably used a word processor to write their essays and whatnot. So giving you the opportunity to create more with these digital devices. Again, digital device isn't the only tool for that, but it's a really powerful tool for that. And so we aim to foster these kinds of skills. These are really important skills for you as a student right now, and in your future, as a college student or wherever you happen to be, and really for life, the ability to communicate, collaborate, engage in critical thinking, and then to create as well. So is this a revolution, or is it an evolution? This whole idea that all students at SHC are going to have a digital device next year. I don't know, I'll sort of leave that up to you to decide, but I think it's important to step back in history and take a look at some of the things we've done so far to get ready for the day when every student would have a device every day. And so back in 2009, we installed campus-wide wireless to support personally owned devices, and we had a policy that permitted students to bring in their own devices. That was really unique. Not all schools did that for a variety of different reasons, including security, or they're just worried about students doing something naughty on the network. We've never had that issue. We've always expected students would use their devices and the different web-based resources to do good things. So we opened it up to all students, faculty, and staff in 2009. Last year, when you guys were in 8th grade, we engaged in several small little pilots where we had teachers in different departments use computers quite frequently in their classes with students, basically to get some experience, to see what it was like to teach and learn in a classroom where where students have really good access to digital devices. Just by a show of hands, who comes from a school where you were required to bring your own device to school? We might have a few. Yeah, we might have a few. Okay, cool. So just one or two. So those were the pilots that we did last year. This past summer, we put in a brand new wireless system, but we set it up in such a way that we would only have a wireless router, as some people, they're actually called access points, a wireless access point every other classroom. So that's how we designed it this past summer. But we designed it so it could be flexible to upgrade in the future. And we are actually going to upgrade. We're going to add even more access points, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So 2009 was a busy year. Our Wi-Fi system was upgraded. This stuff probably all just seems very normal and straightforward to you because you didn't experience some of our other systems. But our student handbook this year was modified in such a way that it wasn't quite so, I don't know how I should say this, hostile, I guess, if you will, to student mobile devices such as cell phones. So previous to this year, we basically had a policy in place that said, hey students, you have to turn your cell phones off and put them away between 8 and 3. This year, we've changed that. Again, we trust students. We trust that you're going to do good stuff. We believe these tools are incredibly powerful for communicating and learning. So we changed that policy so that teachers who wanted to have you use your cell phones and other personally owned technologies could invite you to do so in their classroom. And then we opened it up to use during discretionary time periods such as lunch, collaboration periods, and that sort of thing. Again, students, you can believe it, students couldn't use their devices during those times previously. They did, and that sort of thing. We know that. That's one of the reasons why we changed it too. So we also transitioned to Gmail and Schoology this year. These are two resources that don't really care what kind of computers are connecting to them. So whether you have an Android phone, who has an Android phone in here, raise your hand, cool. Who has an iPhone in here, raise your hand, cool. Who has a Windows computer, raise your hand if you have a Windows laptop. Who has a Mac laptop? Okay, so all of those systems work really well across Schoology and Gmail. And then summer of 2013, just so you know what's happening, we are going to take our internet pipe to the outside world, our internet connection, which is about this big. Technically, it's 100 megabits per second, and we're going to make it 2.5 times that. We're going to make it 250 megabits per second, which is quite large for an organization of our size. I was down at a conference last week with a group of teachers in Palm Springs, and the convention center, which regularly hosts conferences of 4,000 to 5,000 people, they have an internet connection that's 200 megabits per second. So ours will be even bigger than that. And then we'll also outfit every single classroom with a wireless access point to support this, to support student personally owned devices. And then August 2013 is BYOD for all students. Everybody's required to have a digital device. And then I just put this thing in at the bottom here. It's important to know that our teachers are regularly engaged in what's known as professional development, or really you could think of it as adult learning, ongoing learning. So we do workshops, we go to conferences, we do things during lunch, we do things during collaboration periods. So that we're talking and learning about some of the best ways that we can use digital devices and online resources for learning. And this is I guess I don't have a picture of this slide there. So let's jump into what are the computer requirements. There are really 5 different types of computers that meet the basic minimum specifications. And if you already own one of these computers, you don't need to go out and buy a new one. Let's spin through these right now. So a Windows computer, and I'll show you where this stuff lives on the web too, on our school website, so you can access it later. An Apple computer, these are okay. And this is generally the price point. It's amazing the difference between when everybody busts up over that one. It's just crazy, isn't it? But we all buy Apple stuff. Yeah, but the Windows computers are just great. They're fine. And you can pick up stuff slightly used on both the Apple and Windows side of things for even less than this. Oh, and some of you always ask about Linux. Linux is totally fine as well. So if you have a laptop that runs Linux, or you want to get a laptop that runs Linux, that's great. So on the tablet side of things, tablet technology is really still new. So its ability to do certain tasks that we need is still relatively limited. So we're narrowing the choices at this point to both the iPad, so if you have an iPad mini, that would be fine, and the Google Nexus line. So the Google Nexus devices, it's sort of like Google's answer to Apple's iPad. So there's a Google Nexus 7, there's a Google Nexus 10. So iPad mini, full-size iPad, that's fine. We do recommend that if you're buying new, that you get a 32 gigabyte device. If you have a 16 gig right now, that's fine. Don't go out and buy a new one. We wouldn't want you to do that. Just know that you can't upgrade the hard drives on these, so it just makes sense to spend a little extra money on the front end so you can get an extra year of use out of it. 16 gigs, you put some movies and music and a couple apps on there, and 16 gigs goes pretty quick. I have a 32 gig first generation iPad at home, and it's already filled up. So it's tablets, and just to give you an idea of the price point, iPad mini 32 gig is $429, Nexus 7 32 gig is right up there. So this is the Chromebook. Some of you may have used these in some of our classes. This is a very inexpensive laptop computer. It's oftentimes been sort of knocked for only being able to work when it's connected to the web. That's changed. The Chromebook now has some offline capabilities. It has the ability to store some files on the hard drive as well, so you can stick PDFs and other files on the hard drive that you can access when you don't have an internet connection. So Chromebooks are a really good option. And it's a nice price point as well. So these devices are not okay. These would be things like the Nook Color, the Amazon Kindle Fire, and the Amazon just black and white e-reader, or any sort of e-reader. I mean, you can use these devices for reading content if you already own one, but it wouldn't be the primary device. It wouldn't meet the basic minimum requirements. We feel as though these are more consumption-oriented, and we want you all to have a tool that does consumption or allows you to take in information and also create information. So real quick, there's a little poll that we have up here on the screen. If you would like to take out your phones, I will leave this up for 1 minute. You're certainly welcome to participate. So do you already have a device that meets the hardware requirements for BYOD? So remember, there's 5 devices: a Windows, a Mac, an Android, and if anybody wants to use my phone, you're welcome to. It's close by. Anybody? 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 This data actually is really helpful to us, so please do submit. And again, I just offered up my phone to anybody that's on the island. Nobody took me up on the offer. Anybody?
Gentlemen, come get it. We need your answers.
Come on. All right.
And share with your roommate, please.
Okay. Text it in. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what you do, I figured you guys have figured out. So you text one of these codes down here. So these are the codes. So if you're yes, so this is the number that you text to, 37607. And if you're yes, you text this. If you're no, you text this. If you're uncertain, you text that. I get it. Cool. Get it? Okay, I'll leave it up for 10 more seconds. If we have time at the end, we'll do a quick, we'll take a look at the results. Let's get it. Cool. And then one more poll, because I don't want to pick on you folks who don't have a device. If you had to pick today, what device that meets the BYOD minimum specs would you choose? Don't worry, I'm not going to charge you for a minute. Yeah, go ahead. Cool, so it's the same thing. You text to that 37607 number, and then one of those codes. Good. Anybody else want to use my phone?
We want to hear from you as many as possible.
I don't even let my wife use my phone. This is big. Okay, we'll wrap this one up in about 15 seconds. Finish up your text in. Looks like most of you are. Okay, cool. Let's buzz through some of the other slides. Thanks so much for putting those phones away. I appreciate that. And if I could, we're on the home stretch, we're on the back side. It's fourth quarter, 3 minutes to go. And we're almost done. So accessories. These are the accessories that are required for your devices. If I could have your attention, please. Thanks. Just a few more things. These are the accessories that are required. And, a case and a cover, it's just a good idea. Like I have a little plastic case on my MacBook Air. You're constantly sort of banging it around. It just prevents those dings and dents and that sort of thing. Headphones, most of you, I'm sure, already have headphones that go along with your phone or some sort of iPod. And then for the tablet users, we are requiring that you have a keyboard. You can pick up an external keyboard for about $25. And that's just for the writing that you're going to be doing in some of your classes. It's just, you can do some quick writing on the tap screen. I know some of you are really fast too. So this will probably change over time. And so many of the tablets have the speech-to-text input, whether it's Siri on iPad or iPhone, or Google Now. You can do the same thing on Google devices. I mean, it's amazing. So those things are getting better, but right now they're just too new. So an external keyboard for tablets. And these are recommended things. It's a really good idea to get an extended warranty just in case, something happens with your computer. And by the way, we've had parents come in for these same sort of sessions, so we've talked about all of these things with your parents too. But it's not a bad idea to go home and talk these things over with your folks. Insurance. I don't know how many of you kind of control your homeowners or renters' insurance policy. Probably not many. But you can talk to your parents and ask them, hey, have you checked our insurance to see if these digital devices are covered in our policy in the event that something happens to the device? Purchase options are pretty basic and pretty straightforward. You can buy your own computer, or you can use a computer that you already own. And we've mentioned that a few times now. And many of you already own a computer, which is great. So no need to go out and rush out and buy a new computer. Now, if you're finding that your computer is frustrating to use, that has bugs and glitches, you have some options. You can upgrade the computer, give it some TLC, take it in, have some maintenance done so that it performs well on campus. Or if it's really old or something like that, and it's only carrying, a 20-minute battery life, then you definitely probably want to get something new. If you do get something new, here's a little bit of advice to you. It's a good idea to wait until the summertime. That's when the great back-to-school sales happen with a lot of these companies. And it's also when some of the new devices come out. So that's kind of nice. So if you buy now and then, iPad version 33 comes out, for example, and it's like, oh, well, I just bought the other one. So wait till the summer if you can, and then look for those deals. And then the other thing too is if you get the warranty, it allows you to be on it allows you to be even with the school year. So in 3 years, your warranty will come up after you're a senior, believe it or not. And then you won't, so if you get the computer now, you would have a couple of months where you would be without the warranty senior year. Software requirements, I think you'll be really happy to know that we're not requiring you to go out and buy a bunch of expensive software, and this is a good thing. Software can be really, really expensive. You can easily spend $300, $400, $500 in software. We have a whole list of free software, including antivirus. There's no reason to buy Norton. If you did buy Norton and Symantec and some of the others, that's fine. It's great stuff. But there's free stuff out there that works equally well. And it's all listed on our website. But here are the software requirements. Web tools. So things like Google Docs, which many of you use in many of your classes, that's fine. Free and open source software. So you can download and install free and open source software like LibreOffice. LibreOffice is the free equivalent to Microsoft Office. It's an open source project, meaning it's legal to download and install this computer. The software is created by a community of people, community of programmers and other people on the web for everybody to use and enjoy. And the project is it's looked after by Oracle, which is a big company down in Redwood City. So these are some of the other tools: Google Apps, Prezi. Who likes Prezi? That's like one of the favorite. Yeah, a lot of people like Prezi for creating multimedia representations of our learning, and Schoology as well. So that's the software requirements. It's pretty basic and pretty simple. And again, there's a list linked off of our website of really good free and open source software. So this question comes up quite frequently, talking about BYOD, because it's like the one app that everybody thinks they need. And it's just, you don't need it unless you really, 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 really want it. But you don't need it. I just want to be clear about that. And it's not that I think it's bad or we think it's bad. There's so many other things that are out there for free that you don't need to spend money on that. So this question comes up too. And I talked earlier, I showed you the picture of the toolbox. And I said all of the tools that are still in the classroom, teacher and student toolbox, those are still going to be there. So yes, we're going to still use all of these tools. There would definitely be more digital textbook options, and we can talk about those in the Q&A. And what happens if my computer breaks? Well, here's what it'll look like. You can bring your computer to the tech department or the student help desk, and we're going to have a student help desk or Geek Squad, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But you can bring it to us, and we'll look at it. We'll try to help you get it fixed within 15 minutes. And if we can't, we'll have a loaner computer for you to use. Here's a loaner computer. And you can take that loaner computer, and you can use it for 2 weeks while you take your computer back to the store to get it fixed. So you're more than welcome to use that loaner computer. It will most likely be a Chromebook or something like that. So that's what will happen if your computer breaks. And speaking of the student-powered help desk, we already have about 6 or 7 students who are interested in participating in this program. It's a great opportunity, not only to work. A lot of people think, gee, I have to be a tech wizard to be in the Geek Squad. You don't. You really just have to be somebody who likes to learn and somebody who likes to help people, or somebody who wants to learn more about developing skills that would be helpful to you in the future. So you're going to get a lot of practice communicating, collaborating with others, solving problems, and that sort of thing. It may be an internship position as well, but more on that later. If you're interested, drop me an email. Probably going to cap it at about 10, but we might go up to 15. We'll see. And I just want to show you a couple sites on the internet that are going to be useful to you. If we go to the school website, and you go to academics, and you go to educational technology, there are 2 links here that are really important. So here's the minimum system specifications for BYOD. It's basically what we just talked about. Down here at the bottom, there's a link that says, click here for a listing of free and open source software. If anybody has some open source software or freeware that they use that isn't on here, drop me a link and we'll stick it up on this page. And then if I just go back to academics, educational technology, or I could click along the left here, BYOD FAQs. So within this document, we answer a lot of questions, a lot of different questions like where you can charge up your devices during the day, what happens if you forget your laptop at home, those types of things are all listed in this document. So I would really strongly encourage you to take a look at this document, just so you're more familiar with sort of the program and some of the details of the program. I really want to just take a couple minutes here, 4 minutes, I think, and open it up to Q&A with Miss O'Neill and myself. And by the way, thank you. You guys are a really attentive audience.
I have a couple of things to add if they don't.
Sure. Miss O'Neill, while you're thinking of your questions, Miss O'Neill has a few things to add.
Couple things. Mr. Montaigne did refer to the fact that we made a point to trust students. We're one of the only high schools that never banned Facebook, for example. We'd rather talk to you about the appropriate way to have a social media presence, the appropriate way to own a device, the appropriate way to be safe with that device, both for yourself and for those around you. But it's trust and verify. So as you know, Mr. Sazo does check online. We do hear from you about classmates who are posting inappropriate things, and I want to remind you of that. Part of this is keeping one another safe. So if you ever see something online that gives you concern for one of your classmates at Sacred Heart Cathedral, please come tell us. The second thing was on the timeline rather, we left one thing out, which is we have a maker lab around the corner. How many of you have ever been to our maker lab?
All right.
Yay! All right, we want to get more of you there. Around the corner here, down the hallway, is a lab which is designed to have you literally construct things with your hands, with physical tools, with a 3D printer that lets you design something on screen and then print it out here. So we've had students make charm bracelets. We've had students make wrenches. You can do all sorts of things with a 3D printer. And finally, one of the things that you get as a student at Sacred Heart Cathedral Preparatory is an address, an email address that ends in .edu. We're one of the 2 high schools in America that has that tag. That tag lets you purchase things at a discount because you're recognized as a member of an educational institution. So when you go to do some purchasing, if you're going to, use your own shup.edu email address because it might be cheaper for you than your parents. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys be selling devices, or do we have to go to the store and sell?
So the question is, will the school be selling devices like in our bookstore or something like that, or do you have to go to the store yourself? You have to go to the store yourself, yes. Good question, yes? Question is, what does having books on your device look like? And so that's a really good question. It has a complex answer because it looks so different based upon the textbook publishers. So in some cases, an online ebook or textbook might be a simple PDF file. It might be like a 300-page PDF file. Oh, how do you get it? Yeah, so Miss O'Neill can explain that.
So how many of you have ever read a book on a Kindle or a Nook or anything like that? So that might be what the thing looks like. How do you get it? In some ways, it's the same way that students have traditionally obtained books through Sacred Heart Cathedral Preparatory. On the website, in the coming months, there'll be 2 places in which you can find the list of books. One is through MBS, our online bookstore provider. That's a link. It'll be under academics. And you can go straight to MBS and purchase things through them, Shea and company. But we'll also have, as always, a second list. It's just going to be a giant Excel spreadsheet. It's going to be a giant Excel spreadsheet. It is organized by grade and then by the subject area, the discipline, just the same way you register for classes. That list will include the following. It'll have the name of the book. It'll have the author. It will have the edition, because that's always important. It'll also have the ISBN number. That lets you take it and job it anywhere. You can go check at Green Apple Books, which is a used bookstore on Clement. It's a great bookstore. You can go check it on Amazon. There are a couple of other sites that are good at providing books for students. It will also, this year, the new part will be on our book list. We'll provide to you the information that we can find as to whether it's available in a digital format or not, and whether it's available as a rental or not. Wherever we can find that information, we'll put it out for you. You're always welcome to use digital books. If they exist, you can use them. We can't promise you that every textbook is going to be available in a digital format yet. And that's not our doing. That's because the textbook publishers are wrestling with this. Why do you think the book publishers don't want to make every book electronic?
They lose money.
Because they lose money. Right now, every time they sell you a paper book, they're making money. And they know that's going to be closed, because you can't really add to that. But if we create online versions, we can update routinely. So the textbook publishers are being a bit resistant. We're kind of betwixt and between. To find those electronic books, you'll be asked to search various places, but our book list will send you to some of those sites. For example, right now, if you wanted to read a play by Shakespeare, you could go to the Folger Library, which is considered the greatest Shakespeare library in the world. It's in Washington, D.C. If you read Romeo and Juliet this year, or if you were asked to read another Shakespearean play, you would have probably been sent to the Folger Library edition. This year, the Folger Library made every single one of those books available free online on their site. So your teachers will send you some places too. Did that answer your question? Okay. Other questions, my friends?
One more.
All right, here's a question for you. What's the best class at Sacred Heart Cathedral Preparatory? Class of? I couldn't hear you. All right. Mr. Montaigne, any parting words?
Have a great Easter break, everybody.
All right, Joan. 6 up, 6 down. We did it.
That is kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some things got better and